Hey everyone, Coach Powers here, and today I want to talk about a new book that I have coming out called The 15 Phases of Benzo Withdrawal and Recovery. And this book was inspired by my time working as a benzo coach, not just my own experiences, but working with thousands of people from literally around the world at this point. And let me tell you, I've seen it all. I mean, I have seen and heard every story you can imagine, and many you could not imagine. And when you do anything long enough, you tend to start to see trends, right? You start to see phases, steps, stages. And so there it was, just looking me right in the eye. How many clients that I would talk to, especially clients that, were off benzos for a short period of time, or basically any client that reached out to me in a crisis. I was, you know, beginning to predict sort of where they were. I could almost anticipate and foresee what kind of challenges they were going to report, what kind of issues were coming up. And again, I was seeing lots of phases in this, in all different stages of recovery, from the people that were just starting, from the people that were deep in their taper, to the people that had been off even a short time to a meaningful time. And so today I want to talk about one of those phases that I call the honeymoon phase. And think about the honeymoon phase and in your own life experiences, right? Maybe you've had a new relationship, and that first few months, it's just great, right? The person's the best thing on the planet. Everybody's living their best life. Everybody's showing their best versions of themselves. But then what happens after a few months, right? That sort of best version, that almost persona of goodness starts to kind of, that veil of mask starts to kind of slip down, and you start to see who the person really is, right? You're no longer on the high of the new relationship. Well, a similar thing happens for people that comes off benzos after a few months. I've noticed that there's about a 3 month grace period for a lot of people where they feel very elated, happy, joyous, better than ever. They couldn't believe it. Oh my God, I spent, the last year or two or three, fighting this damn drug. I finally get off the drug, and they're just so happy to be free of the drug, just to be benzo free is they're ecstatic. So they're kind of riding on this high. And what tends to happen with a lot of people is after a few months, um, the old stuff starts to creep back up, right? Like, so you're talking about the pre-existing condition. Now, almost all of us here listening to this have some kind of pre-existing condition that put us on the drug in the first place. I know I certainly had multiple things, from trauma to sleeping issues, to anxiety, to health anxiety, to mild depression, um, but everybody has something. And somehow we kind of forget about this during the horrific fight of coming off of benzos. And so we're almost like surprised when it starts to surface again. But really, what tends to happen in the benzo community is not so much that we're surprised and go, oh, God, there's that pre existing condition reemerging, but that we've heard so many lies, so much misinformation, and so much doom and gloom that the first sign of that pre existing condition reemerging, we don't see it for what it is. We just immediately go, oh my God, bind. Oh my God, neurological benzo damage. Oh, I read about this. I heard about this. I've seen videos on this. Oh my God, I was hoping it wouldn't be me. And here I am, right? So we don't even see it for what it is. We'll come back to that. So after about a few months, and this is literally, I've seen hundreds of these kind of cases. Again, person comes off the benzo, probably a really hard fight. They're so happy to be off the drug. They're living their best life for a few months, maybe longer, maybe shorter. And then typically what happens is they push things a little too hard. They do a little too much, overtax their nervous system, have a kind of a flare up, if you will. Because even remember, 3 months off of benzos, you're still healing. I'd say for the first year, at least the first year, for most people, there's an argument for physiological healing that's taken place. And I don't care what your doctors say or what anyone else tells you. This is my opinion, my experiences with benzo withdrawal. I think that there's a good argument. That doesn't mean that you can't make leaps and bounds of progress in that first year. It doesn't even mean you can't be 100% better. I'm just saying there should be room allotted for recovery. And within the first year, give yourself a break and just assume you are healing on some level. But again, don't let that notion that you are healing for that first year to be some kind of barrier and some excuse for why you can't do things or why you couldn't get better or why you shouldn't be working on other issues, right? Like that pre-existing condition. Because then we can just say, well, yeah, I had pre-existing panic, anxiety, agoraphobia, insomnia, health anxiety, whatever. But this is all bind or this is all benzo withdrawal. And so I don't really need to look at that pre-existing condition right now because see, this is bigger than that. And I think you do yourself a great disservice when we do that. And even if there's truth to that, even if it is 85% physiological benzo withdrawal that you're healing from, you still should be working on the other things, right? And this is kind of think what a philosophy that separates me a lot from the other benzo coaches because I'm not a lay and pray guy. I'm not a let's white knuckle it. I'm not a, diet or prayer or, some radical therapy is going to change everything. There are no fire extinguishers. There are no magical supplements, right? Time is a big piece in the recovery process, but so is working on other things like again what was that pre-existing condition because you're going to have to create a foundation, a new foundation if you will, that's going to keep you off the drug, right? You can't do the same things as before and expect different results. It's just not going to work. So one thing I do with my clients and in my benzo recovery school is I'm helping people address all of what's on what's all in the picture here, not just the benzos, not just tapering or healing from benzos, but the pre-existing condition, the things that manifested as result of being in a prolonged, acute, terrible, traumatic situation for so long, right? That matters. There's something left in the wake of benzos. Personally, when I came off of benzos, oh my God, I had things before benzos, obviously, but it was like all of those things were still there waiting for me, and they were damn near 10 times worse. You're right. So I was, my sleep was worse, and my health anxiety was stronger, and physical anxiety and depressions were higher, and all of this, and it really took me like really working hard on so many different domains, from changing my diet to changing my approach to sleep to learning how to control rumination to building neuroplasticity to learning how to create new healthier pathways in my brain to learning how to identify maladaptive, those bad coping skills, and learning how to create in time healthier, more positive, more conducive to healing pathways, right, or coping skills. So it was, and I mean, that's just a little bit. I mean, there was exercise and meditation and spiritual work and working on my life and on my family and my self-efficacy and my self-esteem and my work ethic. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is why I often say healing from benzos requires a lifestyle change. I mean, it's bigger. It requires more than I think we want to acknowledge, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't look at that and hear this and immediately become overwhelmed. Oh my God, coach is saying I'm in this horrible situation, and now he's telling me I got to do this. I got to move mountains to get better. But the thing is, guys, there's a lot of treasure to be um, received on the other end of this. Like you don't just have to heal from benzos and survive it, and come out some disfigured, version of your former self. You can come out a better version of yourself. And the people I work with, myself, which I know is anecdotal, but the people I work with, I have seen so many beautiful transformations, people fighting their way back from unbelievable circumstances and becoming better versions of themselves. They come out more compassionate, more loving, much wiser, much more healthier. And they finally said, you know what? I had A, B, or C, and that's what put me on benzos. And you know what? I'm not going back. I'm going to work on that and I'm going to make sure I never end up on a benzo again because I'm going to fix what was sort of broken before. Now, let's get back to the honeymoon phase, right? Where does this all fit into this? So, with the honeymoon phase, we can kind of rest assured that we weren't doing those things. We probably just white knuckled it, you know, pushed through as hard as we could through our taper, got so excited at the end. We were waiting. Oh my God, is that the thing's going to get really bad? You know, it's the last kind of big punch that we think it might be coming. And when that doesn't happen, you're ecstatic. You know, you enter into this honeymoon phase. Oh my God, I survived it. Yes, I climbed Mount Everest. I survived. You know, I made it to the top where so many others couldn't. And you should celebrate, and you should enjoy that honeymoon phase. You should give yourself a pat on the back. You did an incredible thing, but it doesn't end there. And I think this is sort of the moment in a fight where you knock down the opponent and you start celebrating too early. And you know, you put your guard down and you leave yourself vulnerable. And then the opponent gets back up and he sucker punches you, right? And it's always the punch you don't see coming that hurts us the most, right? So I feel like maybe 1,000 times I've seen this where someone was a few months off. We stopped working together as clients, and then 3 4 months later I get that emergency call. Coach, oh my God, I was doing great for 3 months, and then insert variable, and oh my God, I feel like I'm back at I'm back in acute. I went all the way back, and they're really in a panic at this point because how terrifying, right? When you think about benzos and how that could work, I mean, how terrifying to escape those woods from this grizzly bear and get home, and 3 months later one morning you wake up and the bear's back in the bed with you, and you're just like, oh, it's so defeating. So what do people need to know about this? I mean, first, like I said, it's the punch you don't see coming, right? So me writing this book, the 15 phases of benzo withdrawal and recovery, the whole idea was to kind of create a roadmap for everyone, right? So you see the punches coming. If, say this phase, the honeymoon phase here, maybe it doesn't apply to you yet. Maybe you're still tapering, but now me just alerting you to it, you'll be wiser, right? You'll be on the lookout for this. So when you come off benzos, you say, okay, I'm not going to celebrate too much. I am going to celebrate because it's certainly a celebrating worth situation here. So I'm going to celebrate, but I'm also going to be cognizant of the pre-existing stuff that may still be there and what else manifested. And also, and here's the biggest takeaway I think in this, erase your healing deadlines and erase all of the nonsense and the fear mongering and the doom and gloom of what could come, um, and just remove it from your mind, right? Because it is that anticipation of the bear returning, so to speak, that ironically brings the bear back. It's not just bind or benzo withdrawal or the unpredictableness of it. Not for everyone. I mean, in most cases, I don't believe that is true. It's the fear of it. And so I've seen so many patterns like this. 3 months off, they were out playing golf, they were, traveling, or, insert a kind of a situation where they'll say, Coach, I did too much too soon. Okay, big red flag for this. I did too much too soon. I woke up the next day and a little more hyperarousal, a little more fear, or maybe I had trouble sleeping or had a panic attack, and that signal, that distress, really rings their bell, and so they just panic. I mean I mean what I'm talking about here, this sucker punch that comes after the honeymoon phase, if you will, is a result of fear and trauma response and sheer panic. And it reactivates all that rumination and worry. And we start to go backwards, not just in the sense of, oh my God, we went backwards in our healing. That doesn't happen, guys. By the way, that doesn't happen. All right. There's no evidence that that happens. Your brain is not like a tree. And then one day the leaves blow and all the neurons fall off, all the leaves fall off. But more likely what happens is you panic, you reignite that fight or flight response, which was already high to begin with, right? Now it's back into that real critical stage. And so your brain, your limbic system starts pumping full of cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline. And so that exacerbates your symptoms. So now your symptoms are spiking again. And wow, that's going to feel like acute. It's going to feel just like you did when you were in your worst taper. And then you're going to remember the things you heard and you're going to start to really panic. Oh my God, this happened to me. I won the unlucky lottery, in other words. And, what we need to do is not panic, to not panic and to realize that this is not a setback, but a flare up. And we need not to kind of collapse into ourselves and spiral back into all of our maladaptive coping. And you know what I mean. You have this, okay, you're off 3 months, you do something too much too soon. I'm sure this is going to resonate with some people. You did too much too soon, have a panic attack, had some weird symptoms reemerge, hyperarousal usually, right? Or sleep or something. And then what do? We revert right back to all the old things that we used to do that were bad for us. It's like they say everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So you had your plan, you got punched, plan goes out the window, and we revert back to laying in bed, ruminating, researching a bunch of conditions, looking for some kind of miracle cure, or fire extinguisher. We're booking all these tests and doctors, and we're panicking. And in our mind, this whole narrative is now on fire, saying, "I can't go backwards. I can't do this again. I can't. I just can't lose it all." Right? And that pressure to get better, to suddenly, de-stress is not going to happen. It just doesn't work that way. You can't add that much pressure and then expect the opposite result. If you put all that pressure to heal and all that fear, your limbic system is going to react the way it was designed by nature. It is going to hit you full of fight or flight chemicals in a overwhelming sense of fear, dread, and impending doom, right? Because that's what it's seeing is happening. You got to remember your limbic system is not trying to kill you. It's not broken. It's working pretty good. It's actually working too good, one might say. And your limbic system, it's trying to help you survive. See, it really thinks that you're in danger. So it's reacting to this. And this is all a result of coming off a GABA drug, right? We kind of played God here. We hijacked the system a little bit. And as we remove that GABA and these nerves are going crazy and we don't have that natural GABA, but not just the natural GABA, our serotonin, our dopamine, our oxytocin, our endorphins, our natural GABA, all these things go down as a result. As cortisol rises, norepinephrine, adrenaline rises, the good neurotransmitters and hormones deplete. And this is just the process of it. So part of getting better is reverse engineering this and learning that just, learning to forecast some of this stuff. So if you're 3 months out, 4 months out, X amount of time out, you do too much, you flare up. My advice to you is don't panic. Don't go backwards. Don't go running back to all the forums and all of that. Just breathe, let it happen, let it settle back down, take it as a lesson, figure back out your baseline. Remember, you've got time still left to heal and lots of work ahead of you, and reset. And remember, what goes up will come back down. I promise you that. All right, guys, thank you for listening. If you like this video, give me a like, consider subscribing, leave me a comment, let me know what kind of things you might want to hear, and I'll try to do videos on them in the future. And if you're interested in some benzo recovery coaching, I'll tell you what, we got the best kept secret in the community in the Benzo Recovery School. 24 video module on recovery, hundreds of hours of video lessons and lectures, course material, and just the best positive support group and community you will ever find in the in the big benzo community, and that's a promise. So give it a check out if you will, and I'll see you guys next time.